Hi, this is Gosuico with EMT Paramedics on Facebook and my friend Roz Savage at rozsavage.com. In this episode, pulmonary hypertension. So, two blood pressures of your body. Alright, so by now you'll know that you already know that you have a blood pressure in your arms and legs, and we'll go over that. And what I wanted to convey to you the importance of knowing that you have another blood pressure, which is your blood pressure of your right side of your heart and your lungs, which operate at a much lower blood pressure. Knowing the lower blood pressure of your lungs is important in critical care medicine, but as it pertains to a medic, what you'll want to know on this end is if you've got pulmonary hypertension, you've got high blood pressure on the lung side, that you are predisposed to your high altitude pulmonary edema. And if you already have a cardiac history or a very large pulmonary history, then you might have pulmonary edema. Not the high altitude component, but just the pulmonary edema. Not to be confused with a pulmonary embolism that has the same kind of acronym, right? PE, but PE is generally a pulmonary embolism and has not much to do with your pulmonary edema. Okay, so pulmonary edema has a lot to do with your hypertension in your lungs. So you know that your arms and legs have a blood pressure, and it has a systolic and a diastolic. So SBP over DBP. And your SBP is generally anywhere between 90 to 150, and your DBP is anywhere between 60 to 90, and as that approaches 110s and 120, then you're approaching your hypertensive crises, where the blood pressure is so high that you're starting to affect the blood flow, or you're it's going from a chronic phase into an acute phase of hypertension. Okay, so anyway, let's move on to the lungs part. So the blood pressure of the lungs, the pulmonary artery, is going to be 15 to 30. So much lower than the 90 to 150 on this side, right? And the diastolic of your pulmonary artery is going to be somewhere between 4 and 12. Your pulmonary vein is so low and so smooth that your doesn't have a systolic and diastolic. It just has a mean pressure of 2 to 15. And in critical care medicine, as this is a good intro, because in critical care medicine, we'll insert a Swan-Ganz catheter, a pulmonary artery catheter here, and record blood pressures of your lungs as it pertains to how important it is for this cycle to continue without lots of pressure. So, where does that mean? What does that mean to the medic? Well, if this blood pressure over here on the lung side is pressing on the filters on the lungs, then you'll have backup of fluid, a little bit of blood, but mostly the fluid in your blood system, water, backing up into past the filter and going into your air cavity, and you'll be breathing off that crackly kind of pink frothy. The classic sign of pulmonary edema is that pink frothy sputum or coughing that you have that comes out of your mouth and your oral airway. So anyway, that's not a good sign when you have pulmonary edema. Now, the next part is kind of depressing, and I'm sorry but I'd like to turn it around and make it a little bit happier news. But Princess Diana died because of a pulmonary vein tear. Had she been in the United States, Princess Diana would have been assessed in the field. She would have been scooped in and taken to the nearest medical facility. Chest X-ray would have been done, and we would have probably seen a pulmonary vein tear. We would have confirmed it with a chest CT, and then she would have been sent emergently to the OR to get the pulmonary vein tear fixed, and then she would have been sent to either ICU or recovery room for for the remainder of her stay. And she probably would have been eating or getting ready to eat in the amount of time it took her to die in her vehicle. What happened was they have a different emergency medical response system in Europe, and I believe it's improving now, but back then it wasn't that great, and apparently inexperienced medics stayed and continued to assess her alive in her car for quite some time before she decompensated from a pulmonary vein tear, which is hard to diagnose, but definitely in the United States, the mechanism of injury would have warranted an immediate transport to the hospital, even though she was stable out in the field. So again, this is a scoop and go time, and you'll want to be able to assess that in your situations. So never underestimate what your eyes are telling you, and get them to the hospital. Okay, so turn that bad news into good news, and get in the hospital, and know what you're talking about when you get there. Okay, feel free to share this information, and find me or catch up with me at EMT Paramedics on Facebook, and catch up with my friend Roz Savage at rozsavage.com, who she also is on Facebook. And I'm on Facebook. I'm Jago. On Facebook, I cut out the last part of my name simply for simplicity's sake. And Mahalo and Shaka.